A new neighbor moved in next door, and my son instantly adored him. "Mom, you should marry the uncle next door," he said seriously. "His last name is Cook, way easier to write than Anderson." I refused. So my son went ahead and declared the man his big brother, and brought him home. I was stunned. Isn't that the father of the child I secretly kept after ditching the dad all those years ago? I could only sigh in disbelief. The world is ridiculously small. Almost surreal. Main story. Ethan, snacks. Ethan, my charger. Ethan, milk tea. I sprawled on the bed binge-watching dramas, barking orders at my 5-year-old like a tiny errand runner. "Mom, what are you eating?" He stared at the potato chips in my hand, eyes wide with curiosity and longing. "Steamed bun slices," I lied without even looking up. "Can I have a bite, Mom?" He swallowed hard. "Kids can't eat that. You'll die." I pointed at the seasoning powder on the chips. "See? That's pesticide." He frowned, then watched me stab a straw into my milk tea. "Mom, next time you order milk tea, can you get me one too?" I took a huge sip of taro boba, pure bliss. "Kids can't drink that either. It stunts your growth. And if you don't grow tall, you won't be able to get a wife." I pointed at the label on the cup and continued brainwashing him. "Look. It clearly says, kids who drink this will die." My son looked devastated. "Mom, it says, taro boba milk tea, 30% sugar." Me, raising a smart kid is really hard to fool. I quickly finished it in a few gulps, then crooked my finger at him. "Ethan, hurry up and tell Mom tonight's bedtime story. Put me to sleep." He pouted, pulled out his phone, and started reading aloud. The Domineering CEO and His Sweet Little Wife, Chapter 282. Then he paused and asked, "Mom, the uncle who moved in next door is really handsome. Just like the guy in your novel." I waved him off impatiently. "Mom's into puppy-type guys now." "But Mom, his last name is Cook. If you marry him, I can be Cook too. Anderson is so hard to write." My son's official complaint. Absolutely lethal. He kept pitching the idea. "Ethan, your mother is officially taking your last name back. From now on, you're just E. Much easier to write, huh?" He suddenly scrambled onto the bed and clutched my clothes. "Then, Mom, can I become sworn brothers with him?" "Do whatever you want." I munched on snacks, watched the latest older woman younger man romance drama, and smiled like a shameless auntie. "Mom, then can I bring my big brother over to our place tomorrow to play?" Sure. I wasn't even listening. I grabbed a handful of pistachio shells and shoved them into his hands, shooing him away. "These are shells Mom picked up for you. Be good. Go play." He looked confused. "Mom, this shell looks weird." "Limited edition ones always are." I continued lying with a straight face. "Mom, wake up." Early the next morning, I was shaken awake by the Ethan alarm clock. I suppressed my morning rage and checked my phone. It was only 10 o'clock. This early? Was that really necessary? He rolled onto the bed, his chubby hands kneading my face. "Mom, my big brother is coming over to play later." Half asleep, I pulled the blanket over my head. Fine. Let him come. You kids play in the living room. Don't wake Mom." He left, clearly disappointed. I buried myself back under the covers. I don't know how long I slept before he came back again. "Mom, my big brother's here. Don't you want to wash your face and change?" I played dead on the bed and muttered weakly, "Is your big brother the president or something? Is he really worth me washing my face for?" "Well, he's really handsome," he said hesitantly. "Oh yeah? I don't buy it. How handsome could he be?" So there I was, rocking a Wind and Cloud-style bird's nest hairstyle, wearing monster pajamas, being dragged from the bedroom into the living room. "Mom, this is my big brother, James." "Bro, this is my mom, Ella. You can just call her Auntie." Ethan stood there with his chubby little face all serious, formally introducing us. I froze. James was moving around the living room, tidying up takeout boxes. Tall, broad-shouldered. For a split second, I lost my focus. Loose loungewear, calm and distant eyes, exactly like he used to be. When our gazes landed in the same moment of time, we both froze. My brain went completely blank. Holy crap, Ethan. You really are Mom's good son. You recognized a big brother, and dug up the man who fathered you after I ditched him. After a few seconds, James broke the silence first. "Auntie. I heard Ethan has a mother who's been bedridden for years. That's you?" "Guilty as charged." "I'm that auntie," I replied stiffly. "So you're the big brother my son just adopted?" I gritted my teeth. James raised an eyebrow slightly and pulled the clueless kid beside him closer. "Ethan, I think we need to resort our family hierarchy." He gently patted Ethan's head. Tell your brother, tell your uncle, where's your dad?" Ethan blinked his innocent, crystal-clear eyes. "My mom says my dad's in the countryside, raising pigs." Me, so awkward I could dig a 3-bedroom apartment into the floor. I swear I heard crows cawing over my head. But I know she's lying, Ethan continued proudly. I'm smart. I figured it out a long time ago. My dad must be dead, otherwise, why wouldn't he come see me all these years? Thank you so much, my filial son. I originally wanted you to be my dad, he added. But Mom said you like puppy-type guys. Me, blacklineface.jpg. Ethan, you are truly killing your mother with devotion. Ella, whose child is Ethan? James stared at the miniature version of himself, his expression complicated. Of course he's mine, I shot back stubbornly. Ethan is 5. You graduated 6 years ago. So who's the father? Anyone but you. I rolled my eyes, entirely unladylike. Back in school, I had been secretly in love with James for years, but he was one of those untouchable high mountain flowers, aloof, proud, and distant, who had turned down countless admirers with nothing more than polite indifference. To get closer to him, I constantly staged coincidences and chance encounters. I had even worked up the courage to confess once. That was, until I accidentally overheard a conversation between him and one of his friends. Don't you think Ella from our department is pretty? His friend asked. James merely let out a soft chuckle. She's too dumb. He wasn't wrong. I was a struggling student, he was a straight-A genius. During college, he swept up awards with ease, his professor's favorite, the girl's unattainable cold prince. So my crush was nothing more than a one-sided war of nerves, a secret I never dared to speak aloud. Back then, I found out that every Saturday afternoon, James went to the reference room on the second floor of the library to study. So I forced myself to show up at the library every single Saturday, rain or shine, positioning myself within 5 meters of his line of sight just to remind him I existed. The problem was, I simply couldn't absorb power from books. James studied like a dream. I slept like a dream. It wasn't until the graduation dinner that everything went wrong. Fueled by alcohol and borrowed courage, I accidentally pushed James down. I panicked the next morning, threw $200 at him, and caught the first overnight train out of town. 2 months later, I realized I was pregnant. After a long internal struggle, I went to look for him. But instead, I saw him laughing and chatting with the department beauty as they checked in at the graduate school together. That was when it finally hit me. James wanted an equal partner, someone on his level. Someone like me, with subpar intelligence and emotional intelligence perpetually in debt, was nothing more than a joke to him. I cried alone and scheduled an abortion. But after the exam, the doctor told me that if I went through with the procedure, I might never be able to conceive again. So I chose to keep the child, and became a single mother. Bro, can we stop talking about who my dad is? Ethan suddenly said. That kind of unlucky topic makes my mom unhappy. He tugged at James's hand and circled him excitedly, his face full of admiration. What do you like to eat? Tell my mom to order takeout, she can't cook. Me, son, let me say thank you. Because of you, all 4 seasons feel warmer. This little brat, I can't cook? Are my instant noodles not delicious? James pinched Ethan's chubby cheek, a clear smile spreading across his face. What do you want to eat? Uncle will cook it for you. Ethan jumped in excitement, his eyes sparkling so brightly they nearly disappeared behind his grin. Really? I want sweet and sour ribs. But Mom says they're toxic, I'm only allowed to eat them once a month. James glanced at me, giving me a look I couldn't quite interpret. Then the two of them walked hand in hand into the kitchen. James calmly rolled up his sleeves, surveyed the cluttered chaos of my kitchen, frowned slightly, and began tidying up. Ella, where's the oil? He asked, lifting his head. Maybe? My brain spun at full speed, and still produced no answer. The kitchen, after all, was basically my neglected cold palace. It only existed for the rare occasions when my parents visited on weekends. In that cabinet, I said vaguely. The awkward silence was broken by Ethan's small voice. Where's the spatula? James pressed his lips together and looked at me helplessly. Probably, maybe, possibly in that cabinet? Ethan, however, answered decisively, no. It's on that rack. Fine. They had chemistry. I had nothing. Ethan happily ran out and tugged my hand. Mom, go lie down in your room. Then he turned around, shoved a bag of spicy snacks into my hands, and turned on the familiar opening music of Honor of Kings on my phone. Mom, we'll call you when the food's ready. With that, he ran back into the kitchen, bouncing around James like a hyper puppy. James chopped vegetables skillfully, occasionally turning to smile gently at Ethan. What a touching scene of brotherly harmony. Yeah. Maybe I just wasn't worthy. After lying down, my brain completely went offline. 3 straight losses in the game. Even the spicy snacks stopped tasting good. Annoyed, I ruffled my wool-curled hair and sprang up. Bathroom. Wash face. Brush teeth. Makeup. Running into someone again isn't scary, being ugly is. James's looks really did stand the test of time. I stared at my reflection, still some youthful collagen left, but with two very obvious dark circles. Ugh. If only I hadn't stayed up late. I finished quickly and put on a barely noticeable but complexion-boosting nude makeup look. The moment I stepped out, Ethan threw his arms around me. "Mom, you look so pretty. And you even did a sneaky nude makeup look." "Me, my dear son, you're such an outstanding child. Why did you have to be born with a mouth?" I suppressed the urge to commit domestic violence. "Mom, look. All your favorite dishes. Uncle Cook is amazing." I stared at the table full of beautifully plated food, speechless. "Mom, are you sure you don't want to consider letting Uncle Cook be my dad? I even gave my brother up for you." I forced a smile through clenched teeth. "Ethan, is your mouth rented? Would it kill you to say less?" James sat quietly to the side, a faint, unreadable smile playing on his lips. Ethan, however, had gone full chaos mode, clinging to James and chattering non-stop, from his kindergarten crushes to my blind dates. And somehow, I felt like the extra one. "I'm full," I said. Unable to endure the suffocating awkwardness any longer, I put down my chopsticks and went back to my room. Not long after, Ethan sneaked in. "Your big brother left?" I shot him a look. "Yep. And he took the trash out too." Ethan couldn't hide his happiness. "Mom, you should date him. Don't worry about me, we can each mind our own business." Me, speechless. "Truly. Thank you, my dear son. Mom, I'm really happy today. Are you happy too?" I smiled through gritted teeth. "Thrilled. Then can you buy me a milk tea?" "Ethan," I warned, "don't push me, especially on such a happy day." "Mom, wake up." Early the next morning, I was once again dragged out of sleep by the Ethan alarm clock, deluxe kid edition. I was truly speechless. I used to be chased out of bed by my parents. Now I was being chased by my own child. "Be good. Mom is exhausted. Let me sleep a little longer." Yawning, I pulled the blanket over my head and ignored him. I'd stayed up late binge-watching dramas the night before. One episode turned into another, and before I knew it, it was way past bedtime. "Mom, it's almost 10 o'clock, Ethan said with a helpless little sigh. "I haven't had many mornings at school at all this month." "And how did you score on your exams this month?" I asked casually. "All of them were 100. So what's the problem?" I replied solemnly. "Being late doesn't affect getting perfect scores." I nodded to myself, then suddenly felt something was off. Wait. Why has he been so enthusiastic about school lately? Hold on, I narrowed my eyes. "Do you have a girl you like at school?" I was just bluffing, but to my surprise, Ethan actually fidgeted shyly before speaking. "Well, there's a new girl in our class. Her name is Mary. She's my desk mate. Mom, she's really cute." Ah. So my son had fallen into puppy love. "Fine. I support you," I declared grandly. "My little piglet has learned how to go after cabbages." This mother felt deeply gratified. I drove him to kindergarten, then took a short detour to the office. The moment I arrived, my department head grabbed me. "Ella, you might as well buy a monthly late arrival package with the cafeteria." Then he sneakily pulled me into a corner and whispered, "A new director just got transferred in. He finished the morning meeting, and on his very first day, you pull this stunt. Careful, he might make an example out of you. I won't be able to protect you." I immediately switched into loyal underling mode, massaging his shoulders and offering him a scalding cup of tea. "Don't do this to me, boss. Please carry me. I swear I won't be late again this week." He frowned and took a sip of tea. "Listen. Watch my signals later. I hear this new guy is famous in the industry for having insanely high standards and zero tolerance." I nodded enthusiastically, turning into a devoted fangirl. Yes, 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 Brother Wong, you're absolutely right." He clicked his tongue in disappointment. "But let me tell you, this new director is outrageously handsome. You have no idea." During the morning meeting, Lucy's eyes were basically scanning him like a laser. He kept rambling on. "Well then, let me see for myself," I said eagerly. "I can't wait." I followed closely behind my department head as he knocked on the director's office door. "Come in." A cold, detached voice came through the wooden door. "President Cook, this is Ella Anderson, leader of Creative Team 2, my boss said quickly. She was late today due to special circumstances, her child refused to get up. We'll take situations like this more seriously moving forward." The man behind the desk had sharp, defined features. A pair of gold-rimmed glasses sat on his high-nose bridge, lips pressed lightly together, his entire face radiating cool indifference. When he lifted his gaze, I froze. My department head's face was twitching from the frantic signals he was shooting me, but I stood there completely motionless. He coughed awkwardly. I finally snapped back to reality. My child overslept and didn't want to go to school, so I was late. I'll be more careful next time, President Cook. James remained calm, the corners of his lips curving into a faint, unreadable smile. Oh, he said lightly. I met a child a few days ago. He said his mom sleeps in every morning, and that he's late to school every day. Ethan, is your mouth a colander? Have you ever thought about your mother's happiness? Just you wait. Well, kids are pretty much the same everywhere, aren't they? My boss laughed nervously. President Cook, our department will definitely follow company policy closely. If there's nothing else, I'll take Team Leader Anderson back to work. James folded his hands, leaned back slightly in his chair, and spoke calmly. I'm new here and still need to familiarize myself with the business. How about this, Team Leader Anderson, compile and summarize the department's work from the past 3 years and report it to me. I walked out of the office with my head hanging low. My boss shot me a you're on your own look. Ella, hang in there. Do it properly. Boss, I muttered, is he targeting me? He sighed. If you mess up again, that would be targeting. I had barely stepped out of the office when I overheard gossip in the restroom, about me, of course. Did you hear? Ella offended the new director on her first day. He made her organize 3 years' worth of work. Or maybe she's doing it on purpose, to catch his attention? That director is top-tier elite material. Who knows how many people are lining up? Give me a break. She's almost 30, with a kid. What capital does she even have? I heard her child is illegitimate. The biological father is some big-shot client, over 50 years old. Seriously. Like a toad crawling onto your foot, not biting, just disgusting. Where there are people, there's gossip. Over the years, I'd heard countless versions of the same story. I went back to my desk and buried myself in 3 years' worth of company data, hammering away at my keyboard like my life depended on it. Several hours later, I knocked on James's door with the completed report. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored light gray suit, outlining his tall, lean frame. Gone was the cold, youthful student from 6 years ago, now he embodied restrained, polished maturity to the extreme. President Cook, shall we begin? I asked. Go ahead, he replied calmly. I took a deep breath and started my presentation. He listened quietly, interrupting me from time to time. This design is novel, but not mature enough. This proposal, how did you come up with it? The ending is clearly weak. This one is too homogeneous. The market is flooded with things like this. Every critique was aimed squarely at my work. I clenched my teeth. Understood. I'll improve. James let out a soft chuckle. There is progress. Then he stood and slowly moved closer, one hand resting on the back of my chair, his presence casting a shadow over me. I could hear his steady breathing. His long, well-defined fingers tapped lightly on my laptop screen. Typos, he said quietly. Still careless. Just like before. My mind drifted. Back then, just to get closer to James, I had practically tortured myself, burning the midnight oil, trying desperately to chase after the academic prodigy. Later, under the excuse of asking questions, I became friends with him. Though even then, he always felt like the kind of person who kept relationships light and distant. So that friendship? At best, it counted as the most ordinary kind. Maybe he'd never encountered someone as slow as me. No matter how many times he explained something, I'd still only half understand. He would often sigh helplessly and say, Ella, how do you manage to copy answers and still get them wrong? James lifted his wrist and glanced at his watch. All right. Pack up. Let's go eat. Eat, together? For a moment, I was completely at a loss. Our relationship didn't seem close enough for that. President Cook, I said cautiously, although we were classmates before, I hope you can keep work and personal matters separate. And honestly, our private relationship was never that deep. James's thin lips curved upward, pulling into a faintly mocking smile. Private relationship? Then shouldn't Team Leader Anderson give me an explanation for what happened back then? His tall, slender figure moved closer step by step, and I instinctively retreated. You were the one who slept with me and ran, weren't you? He said calmly. Oh, right. You even tossed me $200. James let out a soft laugh. I forced myself to steady my emotions and stiffen my expression. It takes two to tango. I've long forgotten what happened back then. We were all adults, each getting what we needed. I tried to sound serious, swallowing nervously as I added, if you think it was too little, name your price. I'll transfer it to you. Years had passed, and it had all happened in a drunken blur anyway. I honestly couldn't remember the details clearly anymore. After all, I was the one who pushed him down. It was my first time, I had no experience. I'd actually wanted to give him more money, but my wallet only had $200 in cash. Suddenly, James raised his hand and gripped my chin tightly. His dark eyes locked onto mine, sharp and cold. He let out a casual, chilling laugh. Ella, he said softly, you really are something. A bone-piercing chill ran from my head to my feet. My unease deepened. I fled his office like my life depended on it. Seeing my near-tears expression, my department head looked worried. What happened? Did he scold you? No. He continued comforting me anyway. It's fine. Not every leader is as easygoing as yours truly. Though President Cook is strict and impartial, he's actually quite generous. He just announced in the group chat that he's treating everyone to dinner, picked a place with a per-person budget of $500. He jabbed me lightly when he noticed I was spacing out. Hurry up and pack. We're heading out. Saves you from eating takeout at home again. Huh? So it was a company-wide dinner. I'd overthought everything. I quickly messaged my dad, asking him to pick up Ethan after school. At the restaurant, I focused entirely on eating. Meanwhile, Lucy, the leader of Creative Team 1, had already brought her team over, taking turns to toast James. President Cook, we hope you won't hesitate to guide us in the future. We've heard that after just 1 year at your previous company, profits doubled, truly an example for us to learn from. Exactly. Seeing is believing. Who would have thought President Cook would be so young and handsome? My department head glanced at me, head buried in food, with a look of utter disappointment. Ella, look around this table, everyone's got 800 schemes running through their heads. And you don't have a single one. Look at Lucy. I don't even need to teach her, she knows how to build rapport with leadership. And you? All you know how to do is open your mouth and eat. Come on. Take your team and go toast him. Me, let me say thank you, because of you, all 4 seasons feel warmer. Left with no choice, I stood up, raised my glass, and said to James, President Cook, I hope you'll offer us plenty of guidance going forward. I downed the drink in one go, feeling the alcohol rush to my head. James swirled his glass lazily and replied coolly, you flatter me. After several rounds of drinking, someone suggested playing a game. Fine, play a game. But of all things, they chose the most traditional one, 7-Up. For someone like me, a numbers idiot and certified game black hole, this was basically a death sentence. Sure enough, I messed up twice in a row. And the rule was, the loser had to answer a question from the person before them. Unfortunately, the person before me was my sworn enemy, Lucy. At work, we competed over proposals and performance, constant open and covert battles. In a game like this, her ill intentions were even more obvious. Ella, she asked sweetly, I'd like to know, have you ever been married? I glanced at her and replied calmly, no. Instantly, expressions around the table shifted, only reinforcing the idea that I'd had a child out of wedlock. Then who's the child's father? She pressed on. Quite a few colleagues have seen an older man in a nice car picking you up. Second question. Still relentless. Sorry, I said lightly. That's confidential. Everyone wore knowing expressions. Meanwhile, James's fingers tightened around his glass, his expression dark and unreadable. As for that older man in a luxury car, it was actually my dad. Because he had some connections with the company's top management, he'd arranged for me to work at this ad agency. People gossiping was normal. Where there are people, there's gossip. I'd heard countless versions over the years. I'd long adopted a lie-flat attitude, one day at a time. Honestly? I kind of enjoyed that look on their faces, the irritation of disliking me but being unable to do anything about it. So what? Alright, again. The game continued. This time, I focused with everything I had and finally didn't lose. The one who lost twice in a row, however, was James. A shy young woman sitting beside him spoke up. President Cook, may I ask, are you single? Yes, James answered calmly. I am. Then, do you have someone you like right now? James blinked, his gaze brushing over me almost imperceptibly before he replied, yes. At that answer, quite a few single women visibly deflated. The meal ended with everyone harboring their own thoughts. Judging the time, I sent my dad a message. Old Anderson, please take Ethan home for me. I've been drinking, so I won't pick him up. A few minutes later, he replied. Where are you? I'll swing by and get you too. It's not safe late at night. I sent him the location. Not long after, he messaged again to say he'd arrived. Well, everyone, enjoy yourselves. I need to head home to put my kid to bed. I stood up, making an excuse to slip away. Enjoy yourselves, James suddenly said, standing as well. I'll head out too. Once the main character was leaving, no one else had much reason to stay. Everyone grabbed their coats and headed outside. And there, right at the front entrance, my dad's Rolls-Royce was parked, glaringly obvious. Wow, Ella, the uncle's here to pick you up again, someone shouted. I opened the car door and got in directly. My son was asleep in the back seat, curled up like a little Peppa Pig. When we got home, my dad carried Ethan out of the car. As we came out of the elevator and unlocked the door, we happened to run into James, who was just returning to the apartment next door. He glanced over with the corner of his eye, his expression indifferent. Seeing that, I quickly opened the door. After my dad put Ethan to bed, he headed straight for the kitchen to cook meals for me for the next few days. Ella, my dad asked while chopping vegetables, what does that young man next door do? I've never seen him before. He just moved in, I lied smoothly. I'm not sure either. He looks pretty sharp, my dad continued, waving the spatula as he complained. But he has no manners. Neighbors run into each other and he doesn't even say hello. I froze. Did James hear those vague bits of gossip and misunderstand everything? Should I go explain things to him? I thought about it, and then dismissed the idea. Explain, under what excuse? And besides, if he found out Ethan was his child, what if he tried to take my son away? My current life, money, a child, no husband, was incredibly comfortable. Why invite trouble? Why is Ethan suddenly looking at third-grade textbooks? My dad asked suddenly. I noticed it today. I stared at him blankly. Huh? Isn't he still in kindergarten? Exactly, my dad snorted. You really live in a daze. Hard-working grandparents raise genius grandkids. My grandson is something else, 5 years old and already recognizes so many characters. Who do you think he inherited that from? Certainly not you. You've been slow since you were little. Me, official roast from my own father, truly the most brutal. Maybe he inherited it from his biological dad, I muttered. Mom, wake up. You're going to be late. The Ethan alarm clock rang on time once again. What does it feel like to raise a father-type child? It's waking up groggy to find your son already fully dressed, with your clothes laid out neatly, your bag packed, and breakfast from the shop downstairs waiting on the table. On the way to school, I spotted a coin-operated kiddie ride by the street. Ethan. Mom wants to ride that. He looked at me, utterly speechless. Mom, that's for kids. Aren't you a kid? I said, acting cute shamelessly. He pursed his lips. No. It's too childish. I doubled down. Mom really wants to ride it. I've never ridden one my whole life. He sighed helplessly. Mom, my classmates might pass by. I immediately sat down on the ground and threatened him. I don't care. If you don't let me ride it, I'm not getting up. 1 moment later. Fine, fine. I seriously can't deal with you. And just like that, I finally got to sit on the ride of my dreams. Dad's dad is called what? The machine sang. Grandpa, I answered cheerfully. Mom's mom is called what? As the music played, Ethan frowned deeply, listening intently. I was happy like a 200-pound fool. Mom, that's enough. Let's go, he urged. No. Take a picture of Mom first. I pulled out my phone. Ethan sighed and took it. Ethan, remember to turn on the beauty filter. I reminded him. All done, he said flatly. You look amazing. Seriously. Stunning. Now let's go, we're going to be late. Like a cold, efficient tool, he grabbed my hand and dragged me off to school. I rushed all the way to the office and arrived at the very last minute. Luckily, no tardiness. President Cook just landed a huge client, the department head announced at the morning meeting. A nationally famous maternity and baby brand. We need to show real skill. Same rules as always, Team 1 and Team 2 submit drafts by the 7th. I'll report to leadership, then we'll pitch together. He emphasized sternly, this project is extremely important. The bonus is generous, and it affects our annual evaluation. And Ella, be on time these next few days. No coming late or leaving early. I got singled out again for no reason. I nodded frantically. Yes, boss is absolutely right. Work had arrived. Any chance of slacking off in the coming days dropped to zero. I transformed into a ruthless work machine, furiously outputting ideas in front of my computer. Until one day, my focus was broken by a call from Ethan's homeroom teacher. Is this Ethan's mom? Ethan had a conflict with a classmate and got slightly hurt. Please don't worry, it's nothing serious. We just need both parents to come in and talk. My heart clenched instantly. Without a second thought, I grabbed my bag and ran out. Hey, Ella. It's not time to leave yet, my boss shouted after me. I just emphasized no leaving early. What did you promise me? I can't, I yelled back. My son got hit. I need to go back him up. Whoever dares hit my son, just wait. I'll teach you how to be a decent human. I rushed to the kindergarten. Ethan stood in a row with a chubby boy and a pink-cheeked little girl. There was a bruise on Ethan's face. The chubby boy's face, however, was spectacular, a clear set of scratch marks, like musical staff lines. So you're Ethan's mom? A middle-aged woman, about 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide, yelled at me. Look at what your son did to my child. Mrs. Daniel, please don't get upset, the teacher intervened patiently. This wasn't entirely Ethan's fault. Daniel started it. Let's talk calmly. Holding back my anger, I turned to my son. Ethan, tell Mom, why did you fight? He kept his face serious, stubborn but firm. He keeps pulling Mary's skirt. I told him boys can't treat girls like that. Then he pushed me down. Mom, I don't think I did anything wrong. I looked at the little girl crying softly beside him and understood instantly. So this was a case of hero saving the damsel. You did nothing wrong, I said gently, rubbing Ethan's soft hair. Oh, so hitting people is suddenly right now, the woman snapped. Teacher, listen to that. Like mother, like child. No upbringing at all. First, your kid hit first. Second, even if I lack manners, I still know how to teach my child to respect girls. Your son casually pulling a girl's skirt, is that what you call upbringing? I'd heard Ethan mention before that there was a chubby kid in class who bullied others using his size. That's just kids joking around, the woman scoffed, unapologetic. Fine. I turned sharply, staring down at the chubby boy. Is it right to pull a girl's skirt? Answer me. He was probably scared, because he suddenly burst into tears. The woman shoved my shoulder hard. I stumbled and fell. How dare you yell at my son? Damn it. I shouldn't have worn high heels. I've heard your kid is illegitimate, she shrieked. Seeing is believing. Young woman having a child already, what a fox-like slut. With your kind of quality, you'll only ever be a mistress. You deserve to never become legitimate. I endured the pain in my knee and stood up. My anger meter was maxed out. What followed was a fight. The main event? We grabbed each other's hair. I took advantage of an opening and scratched her face. And just like that, the woman now sported the same musical staff scratches as her son. The situation devolved into chaos. The kids were terrified and crying. Left with no choice, the teacher called the police. At the police station, the officers gave us a long lecture and some serious education. My son and I remained stubbornly resolute, neither of us willing to apologize to the other party. We accepted the criticism, but bowing our heads? Never. Then the little girl's guardian arrived, waking everyone from the standoff. Sorry, the child's mother is on a business trip, he said apologetically. I'm Mary's uncle. I'm sorry for the trouble. I looked up, and saw James, rushing in, clearly having come straight from somewhere else. I panicked and lowered my head at once. This world was way too damn small, Brother Cook, no, Uncle Cook. Ethan cried, as if he'd just found his savior. So you're Mary's uncle? My mom got bullied, please stand up for us. In the next second, my son hugged James's leg like a koala. I was speechless. I had officially lost all dignity. Well, look at this mess of relationships, the woman sneered. Like parent, like child. No wonder they attract trouble everywhere. Teacher, I think children from families like this should be kicked out of kindergarten altogether. James gently rubbed the bruise on Ethan's face and spoke calmly. The kindergarten surveillance footage is very clear. Your son repeatedly pulled at my niece's skirt. The woman remained defiant. It was just a joke. What do kids even understand? James frowned slightly, his displeasure unmistakable. Children may not understand, he said coldly, but as a guardian, do you not understand either? Or would you like me to have a lawyer explain the law to you? And as the injured party, I could easily escalate this matter. Do you think other parents, knowing there's a child in the class who harasses girls, would want their children staying here? I advise you to apologize properly. If your attitude is sincere, I might let this go. Sentence by sentence, James struck precisely where it hurt. Perhaps his presence was simply too overwhelming, because not long after, the other party finally apologized obediently. Just like that, the two injured parties, one big, one small, were claimed by James and led outside. Ethan, you were so brave today. Does your face still hurt? Mary held my son's hand, her eyes sparkling with admiration. Not at all. Ethan puffed out his chest proudly. James looked at me, hair completely frizzed, helplessly. I never should have followed the trend and gotten this so-called wool perm. After all that hair pulling, I'd probably evolved from Storm Rider to Golden Lion King. You were pretty brave too, James said dryly. You're a grown woman, still fighting with people. Does it hurt? I smoothed my exploded hair, still defiant. Not at all. James let out another helpless laugh. If I hadn't worn high heels, I wouldn't have fallen at all. She only had the advantage of weight. And if I did fall, I shouldn't have gotten up, I should have just stayed on the ground and extorted 88,000 from her. After replaying it all in my head, regret flooded in. Every time I finished a fight, I always felt like I hadn't performed well enough. Mom. Ethan shook my arm eagerly. Can I make Mary my girlfriend? Uncle Cook is Mary's uncle. If Mary and I are together, you can be with Uncle Cook. Huh. The little brat had already planned my entire future. Wait. Something suddenly felt off. James is her uncle? No. You two can't be together. But Mom, you said before you supported us. Ethan protested, eyes full of grievance. The two looked like star-crossed lovers, Mary's eyes even welled up with tears. Why? Ethan asked pitifully. Because if Lin Dayu and Jiao Baoyu lived in modern times, they still wouldn't be allowed to be together. Ella, James asked calmly, why can't they be together? This time, the question was directed at me. Because they're too young to date, I stammered. You stutter whenever you're nervous, James said with certainty, his eyes locked on mine. Ella, whose child is Ethan, really? Anyway, he's not yours. I said, pretending to stay calm. After graduation, I dated a man. A few months later, I accidentally got pregnant. We broke up. That's all. It has nothing to do with you. I panicked and blurted out a lie on the spot. James simply stood there, quietly watching me, his expression unreadable. The streetlight stretched his shadow long and slender. After that day, it felt like James and I had completely drawn a line between us. After days of non-stop work, I finally completed my design proposal and submitted it. Unexpectedly, no sooner had I handed it in than I was summoned to James's office. He opened a file, one that looked 80 or 90% identical to mine. This is the proposal Lucy submitted 3 days ago, he said evenly. Team leader Anderson, I need an explanation. What do you mean, James? I snapped. Are you saying I plagiarized? That was my idea. I hated plagiarists more than anything. In my agitation, my temper flared. The two proposals are nearly identical. And Lucy submitted hers before you, James said calmly. As a leader, I have reason to suspect this. Don't I? He remained composed, utterly convinced. So in the end, you still don't believe this proposal was done by me? I shouted. You mocked me for being stupid back then, and now you still think I'm so stupid that I'd steal someone else's work. I may be dumb, but I would never plagiarize someone's creativity. The words burst out of me. Suddenly, I remembered that old comment of his, too dumb. So in his heart, I was always just a fool. Ella, James said quietly, don't bring personal emotions into work. Wasn't it you who told me to keep work and private matters separate? He rubbed his temples and sighed. Put yourself in my position. If you were the leader, what would you think? I called you here to solve the problem. I gradually calmed down. He was right, I had let personal feelings interfere. If I were the leader, I would probably think the same. I'm sorry, President Cook, I said softly. I was emotional. This proposal looks polished, James continued, shaking his head, but its core highlights are still weak. Advertising isn't about exaggerating value, it's about creating value. He glanced at his watch again. There are 16 hours left before the final draft deadline. Ella, if you don't want to give up, don't waste time. I won't give up. I clenched my fists, refusing to surrender. Before leaving, unwilling to let it go, I asked one last question, almost involuntarily. Do you really think I plagiarized? If I truly thought you were a plagiarist, James replied calmly, why would I give you a chance to fix it? In that instant, all the bitterness and grievance in my heart vanished. That night, I worked overtime at the office. And that same night, he worked overtime in his office as well. At the pitch meeting the next day, when Lucy saw my new concept, her face turned into pure disbelief. I took an unconventional approach. For a maternity and baby product campaign, I abandoned the traditional, child's perspective and put the mother's experience first. From conception to birth, most people automatically focus all attention on the baby. But our actual audience is countless expectant mothers, and the power to make purchasing decisions lies in their hands. So I believed we should amplify the mother's experience. According to effective statistics, 7% to 20% of pregnant women suffer from prenatal depression, and 15% to 30% experience postpartum depression. So the true protagonist who needs care is the mother. Besides, today's expecting moms are mostly from the post-90s generation. Unlike older generations who glorified self-sacrifice, they prioritize comfort and well-being. For a moment, the client representatives began discussing animatedly. Won't this stray from the mainstream market tone? I actually think it's pretty good. Post-90s parents are basically lying flat while raising kids anyway. I'm post-90s. I vote yes. In the end, the client leader asked me one question. Ms. Anderson, how did you come up with this idea? Because I'm a mom, I answered. I've lived through both the joy and the pain before and after pregnancy. I understand what this group truly needs. When I was pregnant with Ethan back then, maybe because I'd been drinking, the entire pregnancy never felt stable. In the first few months, I threw up so violently every day I thought the world was ending. When I finally made it past morning sickness, after the screening, the doctor said the baby might have intellectual problems. Every time I went for checkups and saw other pregnant women being protected so carefully by their partners, a bitter ache rose in my chest. Later, I developed prenatal depression. And later still, I went into premature labor and gave birth to Ethan early. Thankfully, my son turned out to be an angel baby, maybe because he understood how hard it was for me. He never cried, never made trouble. At first, I even thought he was slow. But as I raised him, I realized. He was a little genius. My proposal was accepted. But Lucy decided to go down in flames, and reported me. Ella's child is illegitimate. The man supporting her is a man in his 50s, many people in the company have seen him. I don't think someone with that kind of character can represent the community of expecting mothers. And when we joined the company, everyone went through the standard recruitment process, only she got in through connections. Someone without real ability doesn't deserve to be a team leader. The entire company exploded again. This time, I didn't stay silent. First, I said, that man in his 50s, if you'd bothered to ask even once, you'd know he's Mr. Anderson. He's my dad. Second, I continued coldly, if I have no ability, then why did you plagiarize my proposal? Your plan was clearly my first draft. I threw the question straight back at her. Lucy panicked. What right do you have to accuse me of plagiarism? Because of this. My department head slammed down screenshots pulled from surveillance footage, images from the day Ethan got into that fight at kindergarten. Only then did I remember, that day, I'd rushed out so fast, I never shut my computer down. I only locked the screen. And the funny thing was, my desk sat right on the edge of a camera blind spot. The footage only captured me leaving at 3 p.m. But at 6:30 p.m. Lucy just happened to linger near my workstation for 5 minutes. Lucy refused to accept it. That doesn't prove it was me. My boss tossed down another report. Pulled from back-end network data, he said. Ella's computer stayed on the entire time. She didn't return to the office that day, but at 6:30 p.m. her proposal was played from start to finish. At that time, the only person working overtime in the office was you. And that exact window was the same 5 minutes you were standing by her desk. At 6:35, you clocked out through the system. Not a minute off. I was so moved I nearly wanted to hug my boss's leg and kowtow. Boss, you are my god. Your aura today is 10 feet tall. He coughed awkwardly. Well, I only handled the dramatic entrance, he admitted. These surveillance and system records were actually found by President Cook. Take 2 days off, he added, waving me away. Get some rest. Those panda eyes of yours are about to hit the floor. I pulled out my phone and sent James a simple thank you. He didn't reply. Whatever. I was exhausted. I turned my phone off, went home, and wanted to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. But when I turned my phone back on, my WeChat had exploded. A full 99 plus unread messages. AHHH, Sister Ella, major news. The director held a meeting and said there's zero tolerance for plagiarism. He's firing Lucy. Lucy freaked out. She didn't expect it to be that serious, she still has a lot of big clients in her hands. She panicked and threatened to take the entire team one group with her. And the director just said, dead weight. Anyone who wants to leave, go do the paperwork now. We'll follow labor law. AHHHHH, so alpha. Everyone had been worried the department would lose half its strength and end up drinking Northwest Wind. But then, President Cook actually poached Sophie. I sat bolt upright like a dying patient revived. Sophie was a rising star designer in the industry over the past 2 years, highly acclaimed. James really did have skills. I'd heard that Sophie Chen was a stunning beauty, famous name, rarely seen in person. I couldn't wait to see her true face. But what I never expected was Sophie was the department beauty from back then. Sophie. No wonder James managed to bring her in. Ella, Sophie greeted me with a radiant smile, extending her hand. Long time no see. You've gotten even prettier. She looked flawless, bright eyes, charming smile. After all these years, she was even more captivating. Long time no see, I replied politely, shaking her hand. You too. I'll be relying on your guidance from now on, she said playfully. Not at all, I answered. Sophie's work style was exactly like James's, swift, decisive, and ruthless. She never chased trends in design. Her ideas were always unexpected, sharp, bold, leaving everyone else in the dust. Every proposal she delivered made people clap instinctively. In just a few days, she earned everyone's admiration. And the gossip about Sophie and James grew wilder by the day. I've been crushing on the director forever, but I have to admit, they're ridiculously compatible. I'm starting to ship them. I heard the god and goddess have been childhood sweethearts. I heard from employees at the director's previous company, he's been single all these years because of a white moonlight goddess. And that goddess is Sophie. Both single, childhood friends, perfect match. I admit it, this is my god and goddess. Someone lock them in. Ah. Today Sophie said she's getting married. What? To the director? It has to be. The director hasn't been coming to the office much lately. He must be preparing the wedding. I had to admit it. Sophie and James really did look perfect together. Thinking carefully, James had been showing up less and less recently. Maybe he really was preparing for the wedding. Being able to marry the white moonlight you've loved all along, that was a wish fulfilled. A thin bitterness spread through my chest. That reckless night 6 years ago was nothing but a joke in the end. I should have said goodbye a long time ago. Not long after, I received Sophie's wedding invitation. For reasons I couldn't quite explain, my emotions became unbearably complicated. It felt exactly like that time years ago. When I was pregnant with Ethan, went to look for James, and saw the two of them smiling happily together as they enrolled at the graduate school. I trembled slightly as I opened the burgundy invitation. And when I saw the groom's photo inside, I froze. What? It wasn't James? Sophie, your husband? I asked, curiosity creeping into my voice. Handsome, right? She laughed. A freshly graduated college athlete, young, sweet, and obedient. She raised an eyebrow, smiling knowingly. I stared at the photo, the boyish face practically radiating youth. Handsome, I said firmly, giving her a big thumbs up. Although James's looks were undeniably top tier, who doesn't like a younger guy? So that was it. James hadn't been skipping work to prepare for a wedding, he'd been licking his wounds. Once I realized that, the tight ache in my chest suddenly eased. Funny how emotions worked. Before getting off work, I got a call from my son. Mom, I got another 100 today. Can I get a milk tea as a reward? No problem, I said cheerfully. Mom's in a great mood today. I'll buy you one after work. After clocking out, I went straight to the milk tea shop. But after buying it and holding it in my hand, I couldn't stop wanting to drink it myself. I hesitated for a moment. Well, let your mother test it for poison first. I stuck in the straw and took a series of enthusiastic sips. Until Ethan called again. Mom, I'm waiting for you at the school gate. Did you buy the milk tea? I stared at the cup, now left with only a sad little bottom. Well, the milk tea shop closed today. I'll buy you one another day, okay? Damn it. I should have bought two. All the way home, my son's lips were puckered enough to tie up a donkey. I promise I'll buy it tomorrow, I coaxed him gently. Ethan was still unhappy. Mom, then can we go eat at Uncle Cook's place tonight? His food is really good. No. My son put his hands on his hips, glared at me angrily, and then sat straight down on the floor. I'm going. If you don't agree, I'm not getting up. Oh wow. The little brat had learned my moves. Fine. Your mother specializes in curing stubbornness. I calmly pulled out my phone and started gaming. By the second round, Ethan couldn't hold out anymore. Mom, you should just order takeout. Don't interrupt, I said. I'm pushing towers. Sit there a bit longer. When the game ended, I had just opened my phone to order food. When suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. The lights were out. I instinctively hugged Ethan tight. Don't be scared, Mom, he comforted me seriously. It's probably a power outage. I turned on my phone flashlight. That can't be right. I just paid the electricity bill. Wait here, Mom. I'll check if the neighbors have power. Ethan trotted out, and came right back, bringing James with him. Mom, Uncle Cook's place still has electricity. James held up his phone for light. In the dim glow, I couldn't clearly see his expression. With one long stride, he went to the meter box, checked it, and said calmly, the wiring's burnt. Come over to my place for now. Oh, no need, I said quickly. I'll just take Ethan to my parents' place. Let's go, Mom. Ethan chimed in immediately. I'm starving. He looked like a hungry ghost had possessed him. It really did prove what parents always say. Is other people's food really that much tastier? But honestly, the food next door was pretty good. I couldn't help noticing James looked tired, dark circles faintly shadowing his eyes. I also spotted a hospital bag on the coffee table. Heartbroken, sick. Whatever. None of my business. I focused on eating. Meanwhile, Ethan and James chatted nonstop. A perfect pair of good brothers. Uncle Cook. My birthday's next month. Can you make sweet and sour ribs for me again? Sure, James replied, smiling as he rubbed Ethan's hair. Then suddenly, he froze. His gaze locked onto me. His breathing visibly quickened, his expression complicated and intense. Finally, in a hoarse voice, he said, Next month is March. Ethan is my child. He's not. I shot back instinctively. We graduated at the end of June. You and I were each other's first time, he said, voice shaking. You gave birth the following March. Tell me, whose child do you think he is? And why didn't you let me know all these years, Ella? James was already flustered, his hands clenched into trembling fists. Ethan had been premature. There was no excuse left. Yes, I said quietly. Ethan is your child. I took a deep breath, avoiding the burning intensity of his gaze. But how can Uncle Cook be my dad? Ethan suddenly cried. I don't want that. James's trembling hand reached out to cup Ethan's face. Didn't you always want me to be your dad? Ethan twisted away angrily. I don't want it anymore. Grandpa said my real dad treated Mom badly. Why did you only come back now? James's eyes reddened. His throat bobbed. I'm sorry, he said hoarsely. Dad didn't know you existed. Then he turned to me. Ada? I looked for you back then. I couldn't find you. After I ran away while pregnant, I cut off all contact. Later, when I saw Sophie and James together, and with my pregnancy complications, I fell into depression. My parents changed all my social accounts. So it was only natural that he couldn't find me. James, I said softly but firmly, you don't need to feel guilty, and you don't need to explain. We were both drunk that night. I don't need you to take responsibility. I forced my emotions down and continued coldly, Ethan is my son. Not yours. He won't inherit any of your assets. You can rest assured. I thought time had worn my feelings away. But standing there, the suffocating tension in the air proved otherwise. Still, I didn't want James to be with me out of responsibility. And I certainly didn't want to be his second choice. Besides, for 6 years, I'd grown used to raising my son alone. Our life was simple, but warm and peaceful. I'd never imagined letting anyone else step into it. Ella, James asked, eyes red, did you never like me? Not even once. No. I dropped that word, picked up my son, and left. Outside, the night wind wrapped around us. I finally broke down. All the years of grievances and suppression burst out at once. The suffering of pregnancy. The despair of depression. The pain of childbirth. The rumors and judgment of raising a child alone. Too much. Far too much. Mom, don't cry, Ethan whispered anxiously, wiping my tears with his small hands. I won't let Uncle Cook be my dad anymore. He was mean to you. I won't like him anymore. Mom, Ethan will protect you. Don't be scared. Listening to his soft, earnest comfort. I suddenly laughed. Come on, I said gently. Mom will take you to buy milk tea. After I laid everything bare with James, I took a few days off. But the gossip group never went quiet. Some said he was heartbroken and had stopped coming to work. Others said he was wasting away for love. By the time Sophie's wedding arrived, I thought I'd finally see James. But he didn't show up. All right then. The rumor about being wounded by love was officially confirmed. Still, looking at Sophie's husband, handsome, youthful, and sweet, I couldn't help sighing. Younger guys really are irresistible. Congratulations, I teased her. Your husband is really something. Sophie, glowing in her satin mermaid gown, looked breathtaking. He's all right, she said casually, then shot me an extremely suggestive look. The key is, he listens and he's considerate. She paused, studying me for a long moment before speaking again. Ella, are you really not going to reconsider James? I looked at her, confused. James? Isn't the one he's always liked, you? Sophie burst out laughing. How could that be? He was secretly in love with you back in school. I didn't tell you because you already had a child. But honestly, he's never let you go. And now that you're single, maybe you should think about it again. I froze. James had a crush on me? Impossible. If that were true, why didn't he ever say anything? I remember that no matter how busy he was, he always kept Saturday afternoons free, Sophie continued. He'd go to the library. Later, I found out, it was because you were there. He watched you quietly all the time. You were just too clueless to notice. And honestly, you liked him too, didn't you? I was just close friends with James, I said reflexively. We were high school classmates, our parents knew each other. I stuck around him because he was a top student, I wanted to ride the academic coattails. I didn't like that gloomy, melancholy boy type. The words sounded hollow even to me. If Sophie was right, if we liked each other, then why didn't he ever speak up? Sophie sighed helplessly. Men. It's always that pitiful pride. James had it rough. The year of the college entrance exam, his father died in a car accident. The family company went bankrupt overnight. His mother was left alone to pay off the debts. He was badly affected too. With his abilities, he could have gotten into Tsinghua easily. But because of that accident, he underperformed and ended up at our university. During college, he worked like crazy, projects, scholarships, just to afford tuition. He heard your family was well off. Maybe he thought he wasn't good enough for you, so he never dared to say anything. On graduation day, I even pushed him to confess to you. Looks like he still didn't have the courage. It felt like my heart had been torn open. Sourness, bitterness, regret, everything flooded in at once. James hadn't come this far easily. You don't know, Sophie added softly, his mom was diagnosed with kidney failure a few years ago. To get her a transplant, he sold off the company he'd just started building. Ella, some people are born into comfort. Others struggle just to survive. I bolted out of the wedding venue in a panic. Scenes from the past replayed in my mind like a carousel. The day I fell asleep in the library, drooling at the desk. Waking up to see James smiling gently at me. The times I went to him for help with schoolwork. Sneaking glances at his profile while he explained patiently, his ears turning red when he caught me staring. The way he looked at my messy notes and sighed helplessly, Ella, how do you even copy answers wrong? Yes. He liked me. It wasn't my imagination. I was the idiot. Missing something that mutual, that obvious. I rushed to the company, went straight to James's office. Empty. Where's President Cook? I grabbed a new team member. President Cook hasn't been in the office these past few days. I turned around and went home, knocking on James's door. No answer. The next day, same. He wasn't at work. He wasn't home. On the third day, when I knocked again, the door opened. He was dressed in black, utterly worn down. He looked thinner, his bangs nearly covering his eyes, dark circles heavy beneath them. Stubble shadowed his jaw. Ella, you're here, he said hoarsely. The air was thick with cigarette smoke. I forced myself to stay composed, but then I noticed it. A strip of black cloth on his left shoulder. A mourning badge. My mom is gone, he said quietly. I don't have a home anymore. He sounded like a lost child, hurt, fragile. You have a home. Your son is yours. And I am yours, too. Something inside me finally snapped. James, you bastard, I cried. I like you. I want to be with you. That's what I wanted to tell you on graduation day. I couldn't hold it back anymore, I burst into tears. He stared at me in disbelief. Angry and overwhelmed, I punched his chest. Why did you tell others I was stupid back then? You made me think you didn't like me. He snapped out of it and pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. I was immature and selfish, he said softly. I couldn't bring myself to confess, but I didn't want anyone else eyeing you either. I thought I wasn't good enough. I didn't want you suffering with me. You deserved better. That day at graduation, you were drunk, but I wasn't. I swore I'd work myself to the bone and give you a better life. But the next day you were gone. I looked for you everywhere. Then my mom got sick. It's all my fault. If you liked me, why did you leave? He demanded. Why didn't you tell me about the baby? Ella, are you trying to make me regret this for the rest of my life? I looked for you too, I said shakily. The day you started grad school, you were with Sophie. I thought you liked her. His brows knitted instantly. Ella, he said, incredulous, you're so bold, why didn't you just come up and scratch me? And is this really how you see me? As some kind of scumbag? I had no words. Maybe when you love someone, you grow insecure. You overthink. You doubt. Yes. Why was I so cowardly back then? But now. I had to be brave again. Enough. I'm kissing him. I leaned in. And James dodged. I stared at him in disbelief, like I'd just turned into a shameless pervert. I smoked, he explained quickly. My breath smells. I don't care, I protested. I'm kissing you anyway. I went in again. But it was only a brief, feather-light kiss before he pulled away. I could only silently regret not studying more theory. Don't rush, he said lowly. I'll let you kiss me properly later. Who's rushing? I snapped. Now it made me sound like I was the desperate one. The first day I brought James home, he barely stepped through the door before my dad landed a solid punch on him. So you're the man Ella refused to talk about back then? You ran off without taking responsibility, disappeared completely, and now that the child's grown up, you come back to reap the benefits? Not a chance. I don't approve. The scene descended into chaos. I had no choice but to explain the misunderstandings from years ago to my parents. After listening, my dad slammed the table in fury. Nonsense. What were you two mouths even for back then? After taking a few deep breaths, he turned to James impatiently. You. Come with me. A long time passed before James finally emerged from the study, his expression grave. No matter how I questioned him, he wouldn't say a word. Did my dad beat him up again? It wasn't until we were on the way home that James suddenly pulled me into his arms. His voice trembled. Aya. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you suffered so much. I really deserve to die. That was when I realized. My dad must have told him everything about my pregnancy back then. It's all right, I said softly, patting his back. It's all in the past. Ethan is healthy. Give me a chance to make it up to you, he said hoarsely. Let me return all the love I owed you over these years, double it, okay? Okay. That night, James held me and talked endlessly. It was the first time I'd heard so many confessions from the aloof, untouchable campus heartthrob. The image of the cold, lofty, high mountain flower completely collapsed. I only remember his last words to me, whispered while holding me close, "Ella, you've always been the moonlight I looked up to in the darkness. I'm so lucky to finally hold my moon." After getting together with James, I repeatedly emphasized one thing to him: keep work and personal matters strictly separate. First, I didn't want gossip. Second, well, I wanted to experience the thrill of a secret office romance. At the morning meeting, he pointed at my proposal with a straight face. No originality whatsoever. Team lead Anderson's standards are really declining. I forced a smile through gritted teeth. All right. I'll revise it immediately, President Cook. The moment I turned around, I placed an online order for durians. Ella, don't you hate durian? A colleague asked. I chuckled. Durian isn't just for eating. At noon, as I passed a certain someone's office, I was suddenly grabbed around the waist and dragged inside. Wife, I was wrong, he whispered. I admit I spoke a little loudly this morning. I shoved him away. Save it. Go home and kneel on the durians. As for James and me getting together, my son and my dad initially shared the same stance. James was an irresponsible scumbag. But after James repeatedly worked hard to win favor, my son finally nodded in reluctant approval. However, it didn't take long before he regretted it. Dad, maybe you should go back to being my uncle. Or my big brother. Ever since you got together with Mom, I feel like I've become extra. Just like what people online say. You and Mom are true love, and I'm just an accident. Well, considering we had to avoid suspicion at work. Every time we got home after work, James turned into an unrestrained husky off the leash. Completely uncontrollable. He wanted to stick to me at all times, and honestly, I enjoyed it. Ethan, be understanding, I coaxed. Your mom and dad are still in the honeymoon phase. My son pouted, his face full of resignation. Before, it was just Mom bedridden. Now it's two people. You parents are seriously too hard to raise. James and I lowered our heads in unison, completely speechless. After a moment, my son added thoughtfully, or, you could just give me an older brother. So he can take care of me. I once thought love was something I'd missed forever. But now, in this ordinary life, arguments, laughter, and late-night milk tea, I finally understand, the right person doesn't arrive perfectly. He arrives, stays, and chooses us every day.